When my son-in-law said, "Don't expect a penny of your daughter's $45 million," I didn't flinch. I simply placed my name card on the table because I knew what was coming next. That moment. His face turned pale, and the room forgot how to breathe. The real story had only begun. The usher's white glove brushed the edge of my coat as he handed me the pen. "Please sign here. Ma'am, guest list." His voice was gentle, but that word, guest, cut through the drizzle heavier than the January air outside. My hand trembled above the paper. I looked down and saw my daughter's photograph on the printed program. Amira Elise Dre, beloved wife, philanthropist, mentor, not a single mention of daughter of Loretta Quince. My throat closed. Dry as chalk, I signed Loretta Q. The Q wavered, then straightened as I pressed harder, forcing the ink into the paper like proof of existence. Behind me, 2 women whispered, "Bless her heart. She wasn't even at Thanksgiving." I fixed my shoulders the way my mama taught me, high and square, no scenes today. Carter stood by the altar, tall, polished, rehearsed. He greeted donors by name, shook hands like he was closing a deal, not burying a wife. When his eyes skimmed past me, there was no flicker of recognition. I became invisible in a room I once helped decorate for her baptism. The eulogy followed. He spoke about Amira's legacy, her leadership, the Dre Foundation. Slides flashed behind him, corporate branding instead of baby photos. Not one picture from her childhood, not one mention of the nights I sat awake teaching her to braid her hair before picture day. A woman leaned to another pew, whispering, "Is that her mother?" The answer floated back. "No, I heard she's complicated." I clenched the lily stems till my knuckles went pale. I didn't stand or interrupt. Silence has a way of speaking louder than grief. After the service, the foyer buzzed with laughter and lemon bars. A velvet rope separated donors from the rest of us. Carter's assistant smiled professionally. "Miss Quince, the family room is full right now." I met her eyes. "Baby, I am the family." She blinked, unsure whether to apologize or escort me out. A well-dressed man patted my arm, saying, "You must be proud of Mr. Dre's leadership." I smiled without teeth. Leadership is one word for it. When I tried to approach the memory table, my photograph of Amira, 8 years old, missing a front tooth, was gone. Only glossy frames remained. Amira with governors, ribbon cuttings, charity galas. Whoever controls the pictures controls the story. At the parlor door, an usher stopped me. "Family only, ma'am." I caught Carter's profile beyond the glass. He laughed, a deep, easy laugh. With his new circle. The door shut. Laughter muffled like sound underwater. I turned back toward the guest book. Its bold header stared at me. Guests. My late husband's voice whispered from memory, "Count to 5 before you speak." "Loretta." I counted. Twice. Then touched the pearl earring Amira gave me, my anchor in the storm. Outside. Drizzle thickened. A cousin approached with his phone. "Loretta, you seen this?" Carter's memorial post already had hundreds of likes. The caption, "She distanced herself years ago but came today to pay respect. Families are complicated." My stomach dropped. The comments were worse. "Some folks only show up when money's involved." Eyes turned toward me. Sympathy curdled into judgment. I whispered, "That's not how it happened." But the wind carried it away. Reverend Celeste avoided my gaze. Even she had read the post. I tucked the lily card back into my coat pocket. Proof that I was still her mother, even if no one remembered. When Carter's assistant offered to help me out the side door, I smiled. "Honey, I know my way around doors." At the memory table again. A volunteer blocked me. "We're curating continuity," she said. "Whose continuity?" I asked quietly. She looked away. In my purse, a USB drive held Amira's childhood photos. I didn't hand it over, not today. Carter posed for the local news crew, his hand on a senator's shoulder. Charm polished to perfection. Rain kissed my face as I stepped outside. I sat in my car. Lilies damp against my lap. "Mama's here," I whispered. "Mama's not done." I opened my notes app and typed, "Find program editor. Who removed mother?" A new folder. Amira, real. First file. Guest at my own daughter's funeral. I inhaled, slow and steady. When I exhaled, it sounded like a promise. The rain had slowed to a mist when the usher found me under the portico. His vest was still damp, and his voice trembled. "She meant for you to see this. Miss Quince, don't say my name." He pressed a folded page into my palm and hurried off before I could respond. The paper was still warm, smelling faintly of toner. I unfolded it, eyes scanning the top margin, estate planning addendum, Amira Q. Dre, dated last May. The line that stopped my breath cold read, "Executor, Loretta Quince." My name, my initials, A.Q.D. Looped in blue at the corner, her handwriting. Someone had tried to bury this. I tucked it into my lily card and whispered, "Thank you, baby," though the usher was already gone. Inside my car, I flattened the sheet against the dashboard. I snapped photos under the gray light, then switched on the dome lamp for clarity. I placed today's newspaper beside it in one frame for timestamping. Old habits from teaching forensic accounting. "Document everything," I muttered, recording a voice memo about the exchange. His words, the paper's condition. I emailed the photos to myself with the subject line, "Amira, real, 3 evidence," and deleted the thread. Control was oxygen. 2 faint pencil marks near my name, her tiny check marks. My throat tightened. I pressed my lips together. 2 erasures. I thought, first from the program, now from the law. The downtown library's lights glowed like sanctuary. The young tech aide didn't ask questions, just nodded when she saw the funeral pin. Together, we scanned the document at high resolution. She named the file exactly as I requested. Amira _real _S3 _addendum _draft PDF. I emailed a backup to a private account no one knew about and printed 2 copies on archival paper. I signed the back edge of each, sealing the truth in my own ink. When she mentioned the law firm on Meeting Street, I memorized it, but smiled. "No calls tonight, I said. "I don't wake snakes before I buy boots." She laughed softly. I left her a thank you note on the counter. Back in my car, I called at the probate clerk's office. The hold music buzzed. When the woman returned, her tone was careful. "There's a June filing by counsel. I can't give details without standing." June meant replacement. "Appreciate you," I said, scribbling the dates. Before hanging up, she added quietly, "Check the notary log if you find the witness." I tapped my pen twice. Code for lead acquired. I drove back to the chapel for one last look. The crowd had thinned. Only crumbs and cordial laughter remained. My eyes landed on Amira's childhood science fair photo, captioned, "Dre Family Early Roots." My blood warmed. "That's my daughter," I told the PR girl when she blocked me. "We'll send digitals," she chirped. "I'll take this one," I said, steady as marble. I tucked the frame under my arm, turned, and left. Carter watched me from across the hall. Smile polished and hollow, I returned it with quiet fire. Halfway to the car, my phone buzzed. Carter Dre. I answered. "Loretta, let's not make a scene." His tone was managerial, dismissive. "I don't make scenes," I said. "I keep receipts." He chuckled. "Whatever paper someone handed you wasn't final. Do yourself a favor, don't embarrass Amira's legacy," I replied softly. "Her legacy had a mother." His voice dropped. "You're just a mother-in-law, not family. Walk away with dignity." The line hissed with silence. I counted to 5. "I taught kids to show their work," I said. "You'll show yours." Then I hung up. At the motel, I spread everything across the bed, copies, photos, program, lily card, and the frame of my little girl grinning with braces. Each item was a truth the world had tried to erase. I organized folders, labeled each. Legal, social, photos, calls. Then I wrote the first line of my battle log. June filing supersedes May addendum. Carter involved. My phone vibrated again. A new voicemail from a restricted number. A woman's voice, low and urgent. "Miss Quince, this is Helen Ruiz. Your daughter trusted me. We need to talk before anyone seals the file." I played it twice. heart steady. I placed Amira's photo upright on the desk, whispered, "I'll be there, baby," and began drafting tomorrow's checklist. When I exhaled, it no longer sounded like grief. It sounded like strategy. The cafe on Meeting Street smelled of roasted beans and wet asphalt. I picked a corner seat where I could see the door and my reflection in the window, a habit I never unlearned. Helen Ruiz arrived right on time. Courthouse badge clipped to her tote. She didn't order coffee, just folded her hands around a paper cup that wasn't hers. "There's a June filing," she said softly. "I can't say much, but the log looks rushed, counsel-driven." Her voice was steady but careful, like a person who knew the walls could hear. She slid me a sticky note with a name, M. Devan, paralegal. Then, looking straight ahead, she added, "Don't send emails you wouldn't want read aloud in court." I smiled. "Honey, I'm paper and pen. Always have been." When she left, I wrote every word she'd said in the margin of my notebook, outside. I walked slowly past the Lott and Keene building. Glass facade, mirrored enough to spy without being obvious. I counted cameras, door sensors, and the courier bins labeled probate, priority. People underestimate how much a woman sees when they think she's invisible. I noted the partner names on the directory board, traced my finger over Grace and Lott, estate practice, inside. A janitor propped open a door. I glimpsed a shred bin marked confidential, I thought. No knocking without leverage. My phone buzzed with a Charleston number. "Mrs. Quince? Grace and Lott. I understand you have questions." His tone was practiced courtesy. "I can make 20 minutes, I agreed but insisted. "I'll be taking my own notes," he said. "Of course." Too easily. I texted Talia a short update. "Meeting counsel, keep your morning open." Then I locked my originals in the motel safe, carried only copies. When I signed in at the firm, I noticed the visitor pen was blue, not black, a small but telling thing. They wanted contrast for scanning signatures. The conference room smelled like polished wood and controlled power. Lott entered with a sympathetic half smile and a paralegal who stayed quiet. "Your daughter was remarkable," he began. Her June filing reflected her final wishes. I laid my copy of the May draft between us. "This one has her initials," I said. "A Q Dadido," in blue ink. He looked at it a second too long. "That was a working document," he replied smoothly. "People change their minds. Mrs. Quince." I kept my tone mild. "Then let's see who witnessed the change." He clasped his hands. "That information is privileged." The paralegal added, "The June set supersedes earlier drafts. I wrote that phrase in my pad, word for word." Lott leaned back. "The foundation wants to avoid unnecessary disputes. You understand how stories spread." "Legacies aren't stories," I told him. "They're facts written down." His eyes flickered. "You risk reopening old financial narratives." There it was, the velvet threat. "In my classroom, I taught students to show their work," I said. "You'll forgive me if I ask for yours." His jaw tightened. "Then I suggest you hire counsel before this becomes adversarial." I rose, gathering my papers. "Thank you. Mr. Lott, I'll proceed carefully, with names, dates, and signatures." Outside, I leaned against the cool marble wall and wrote everything, room number, quotes, timestamps. I photographed the directory sign, the glass reflection of their logo. Then I bought a cheap notebook at the drugstore downstairs and labeled it S5. Lott meeting. First line. They used narratives as a warning. My anger was cooling now, like iron setting in water. As I stepped out into the noon light, a receptionist rushed after me with an envelope. "From Mr. Lott," she said, polite but nervous. Inside was a brochure for the foundation and a letter about maintaining public clarity. The language matched Carter's post almost word for word. I circled 3 identical phrases before slipping it into my folder. The sun hit the glass doors, blinding for a moment. "Guide my steps," I whispered. Clutching my bag, I could feel Amira's courage humming in my bones. Lunch at the roadside diner was quiet, eggs cooling while my phone buzzed with Talia's text checking in. The waitress called me sweetheart. the way Southern women do when they sense a storm behind your eyes. I drove back to the motel under a pale sky, thinking only of my notes. When I reached my door, the chain was untouched, but something white peeked from underneath. I froze, ear against the door, nothing but the hum of the vending machine down the hall. I nudged it open with my shoe. 3 block words in thick black marker. Stop digging now. No envelope, no signature. My heart gave one hard thud. I lifted it with tissues, studied the edges under the lamp, took 4 photos, and whispered, "Bless your heart if you think paper scares me." Old instincts kicked in. I stepped into the hall with my phone camera recording, narrating the date and time like I was back teaching evidence handling. A dome camera hung by the elevator. I filmed its angle toward my room, downstairs. I asked for the manager on duty, calm but firm. "Sir, I'd like the last 2 hours of footage preserved for police review." I logged his name and the guard's badge number. By the time I returned upstairs, the unease had settled into order. I slipped the note into a protector sheet and labeled it neat as a teacher. S6, threat note, room 214, 1342. Then I texted Talia. Threat on paper, moving to phase 2. Call me at 6. By 3. I was back on Meeting Street, chapel binder in hand. The receptionist remembered me. "You gave such lovely lilies," she said. I smiled. "Appreciation goes both ways. I just need to check on a misplaced photocopy." She pointed to a copier in the back hall, its panel still glowing. A quick glance at the print log showed 10 jobs. The 6th marked Ace Sawar, draft 2/7. My breath tightened. The usher had said that's what he saw before. PR pulled it. I jotted the asset number and service company tag, left a small thank you donation, and copied the volunteer roster from the sign-in binder. People talk when you treat them like they matter. The volunteer coordinator led me to a shared laptop used for the memorial slideshow. "We stored pictures here," she said. I noticed the drafts tab open. One subject line read, "Executor language, Mom." My throat caught. It was an unsent email from Amira's account, dated a week before my photocopy's timestamp. She had written, "Executor, Loretta Quince. Please confirm final paragraph before signature." She never sent it. I took discrete photos of the screen, the date, the alias, the draft folder path. "She meant for me to see this," I whispered. The coordinator nodded gently, not asking questions. By evening, I sat on a harbor bench, wind lifting the edges of my notes. I compared the threat's handwriting to Carter's Foundation letterhead, not the same hand, but the phrasing, dignity, confusion, legacy, matched his PR tone exactly. I circled the overlaps in red ink. It wasn't fear now, it was geometry. 3 points aligned, the lawyer, the PR post, the note. They wanted to manage me out of existence. I thought of Amira's childhood drawings on my fridge, every corner signed A.Q. She always marked what was hers. The sun dipped low. I prayed softly. "Lord, guide me toward receipts, not rage." I listed my next steps. County record logs, IRS pulls, vendor cross-checks. I would not call Carter, not email Lot, not leave a trail they could twist. Discipline is a mother's oldest weapon. I looked at Amira's photo, edges worn from travel, and pressed it flat against my chest. "They're not writing your ending, baby," I said. The tide lapped close, steady and sure. Tomorrow, the truth would start speaking in daylight. Talia was already at the cafe when I arrived. Laptop open, eyes sharp behind her glasses, she slid the spreadsheet across the table like a magician revealing a secret card. 3 vendors, same routing pattern, she said. One name, Pelican Strategies LLC, stood out. Same P.O. box as Carter's old roommate. Payment started right after Amira's hospitalization. Consulting services, the memo read. Though the invoices listed floral arrangements, Talia highlighted mismatch codes and duplicate invoice numbers. They didn't even bother changing the hashes, she whispered. I saw the words Legacy Optics pop up 3 times. PR lingo for image control. That's Carter's brand voice, I said, circling each instance in red. We mapped those payments against the June revision date. The cluster was tight. Too tight. I leaned back. We're not guessing anymore. We printed 2 clean copies, one for her locked drawer, one for my Amira real folder. By mid-morning, we had turned the cafe table into a war room. I sketched a witness tree. Usher, librarian, Helen Ruiz, the chapel volunteer, each with time and location. Talia typed as I dictated, building a chain of custody log. "You sure you want to go this formal?" she asked. "Yes," I said. Paper's the only thing that doesn't blink." She drafted a litigation hold letter in plain English, and I practiced reading it like I was teaching again. Calm, clear, firm. I scheduled a notary for the next morning. Each name, each signature, each timestamp. It all went in ink. We backed up every file to a quiet cloud account before leaving. I texted Helen. Affidavit meeting confirmed. No attachments. Her reply came quick. Copy? The Dre Foundation's lobby gleamed like money pretending to be virtue. I walked in with my donor badge and asked the receptionist for public filings. Form 990, vendor records. Her smile stiffened. "Those are handled online." She handed me a glossy booklet titled Impact Through Legacy. I handed it back. "I'll wait for the real numbers." Before leaving, I placed a sealed envelope on the counter. My litigation hold letter. "Please stamp received." She hesitated, then did. On the wall. Amira's photograph hung beside Carter's quote about family values. My name wasn't in the caption. I took a photo from a polite distance, then caught Carter watching through the glass office door, phone to his ear, eyes cold as marble. That afternoon, the counter-strike hit. My inbox pinged. Cease and desist, unauthorized possession of estate material. 10 minutes later, 2 squad cars rolled into the motel lot, anonymous welfare check, elderly woman in distress. I met them outside, hands steady. "Officers, I'm not distressed, I'm targeted." They checked my ID, saw the folders labeled estate evidence, and one nodded. "My mom's a teacher, He said quietly, "I get it." I asked for a case number, thanked them, and wrote it down before the engines even cooled. Back inside, I forwarded the C&D to my backup email, tagging it S9, legal PR strike. They wanted me rattled. They got the opposite. Night fell, and I sat at the motel desk drafting my reply. Not to send, just to exist, I issued litigation, hold letters to Lott and Keene, the Dre Foundation, and the copier company that printed Amira's addendum. Every email went out with red receipts, blind copied to my private archive. I called the UPS notary to confirm tomorrow's witnesses. "Jurat or acknowledgement?" she asked. "Jurat," I said. "They'll swear." Before bed, I organized the evidence folders by theme: legal, PR, threats, financial. My May draft page lay on top. I looked at Amira's photograph. "Mama's not blinking," I whispered. Leaving the foundation's parking garage earlier, I'd noticed a black SUV idling 2 lanes back. I'd snapped a photo of the license plate, time-stamped it, and looped through a grocery lot before coming here. Now the phone buzzed again. Helen Ruiz. The notary's assistant called me. She's ready to talk, under counsel. I smiled. Exhaustion giving way to steel. I synced calendars, locked the folders, and stared at the night sky over Charleston, bruised and violet. "They wanted silence," I said aloud. "They're about to get records instead." At exactly 9:01, the notary's assistant placed a bound journal on the table like it might bite. I noticed the uneven pressure of her pen marks. One page torn near the spine. June's entry listed Amira's name beside 2 witnesses, yet the times didn't fit. The office closed at 5, but the log read 6:15 p.m. "We never stayed past 5, I said. Her fingers twisted the edge of her sleeve. "I was told to fill it in later," she whispered, voice cracking. "Mister, Lott's clerk said it had to match the June packet." She named the courier who brought it, a PR runner from the foundation, not Amira. My stomach turned, but I kept my tone even. "Then today, we fix it." She nodded as I signed her jurat, initials marking every exhibit, torn page, false time, call log. My hand didn't shake. The county building always smelled like old paper and cold air. I asked security for badge-in reports for that June evening. The supervisor printed anonymized logs, glancing at me like he already knew. "No entries after 4:12, he said. Just cleaning crew at 5:03. The visitor sheet for that hour was nearly blank. 3 missing signatures, 2 empty ID columns. I asked for the hallway camera placement. He pointed at the map. Lens hash 12 covered the notary corridor. I wrote down the request number and timestamp, then said, "Please preserve the footage." He nodded slowly, like he understood this wasn't gossip, it was evidence. Back in the hallway, I called Talia. "But oi, badge logs contradict the journal," I told her. "Good," she replied. "Truth always leaves receipts." Before noon, my phone lit up with Grayson Lott's name. "Mrs. Quince," he said, smooth as lacquer. "There's no need to stir up county staff. Mediation remains open." I stared out the window at the courthouse dome. "The logs in the journal disagree." I said, "I'm preserving both." He exhaled. "All lawyer patience. Escalation will be expensive. I doubt your pension—" "Sir," I cut in, "you're being recorded for documentation." Silence, then softer. "We can arrange a transition stipend. Friends at the foundation could—" "You just made Exhibit S 13A, I replied, hanging up. Some men forget a teacher learns to write everything down. An hour later, outside the annex, Carter appeared carrying 2 coffees. "Loretta," he said, voice pitched for sympathy. "Amira wouldn't want a spectacle." He slid a folded paper toward me, his thumb hiding the logo. I didn't touch it. "Non-disparagement and an honorarium," he added. Like charity, my coat pocket recorder blinked red. "Say that again," I murmured. "Honorarium night." He repeated it proudly, like a man rehearsing mercy. I unfolded the draft just enough to read the last line aloud. Executor designation was a misunderstanding. I looked him square in the eye. "No, Carter, the misunderstanding is thinking I scare easy." Inside the courthouse, I found the clerk and filed Form 213, Emergency Preservation Order. With Talia on speaker, we listed everything: notary pages, badge logs, printer cues, visitor sheets. I attached each exhibit. The hushed transcript included. The clerk stamped it with steady pressure and said, "Hearing in 48 hours. I faxed copies to Lott and Keene and the Foundation's counsel before the ink dried. Standing under the marble skylight, I whispered, "That's how you don't blink." As evening stretched across Charleston, a Foundation blast hit my phone, honoring Amira's vision, a quote she never wrote. 30 seconds later came an acknowledgement from Lott's office. Receipt confirmed. Then another ping. A calendar invite for a will reaffirmation moved to tomorrow morning. I zipped my briefcase shut, aligning folders by exhibit number. "Rushing is what guilty hands do," I said to no one, and watched the sunset bleed across the courthouse glass. I arrived at the firm 10 minutes early. The glass boardroom was already gleaming like a confession booth. I placed the stamped preservation order in the center, beside my small recorder blinking red. Grayson Lott looked up from his notes. "Let's keep this civilized. Mrs. Quince," he said. I met his gaze, calm as an old teacher handling a noisy class. "We'll keep it legal," I replied. Carter sat across from me, his cufflinks catching the light, fingers twitching against a leather folder. The receptionist was called to witness, standing awkwardly near the door. I read out the exhibit labels. S11 through S13. Each syllable deliberate. The sun hit the glass walls, reflecting our faces in every direction. For once, nobody looked at their phones. The order was read aloud, line by line. Every item to be preserved: notary journal, visitor logs, security footage. Lott's jaw tightened, but he didn't interrupt until the end. "This doesn't prevent today's reading," he said. "It prevents tampering," I corrected, sliding my photos across. Gasps rippled when the torn journal page appeared. "These were your records," I said evenly. I laid out the visitor logs next, missing IDs, blank lines. Carter shifted in his chair. "She's twisting casual settlement talk," he blurted. And in that instant, the word settlement hung heavy. I didn't need to raise my voice. The junior associate stopped typing and quietly hit record on the firm's phone. Control had changed hands, and they all knew it. Then came the first ping from the Foundation's CFO's smartwatch. She'd been silent until now, but her brow furrowed. Pelican strategies. Hold, she muttered. Would you repeat that? I asked, softly. She stammered. Our bank froze payments, compliance review. I pushed Talia's spreadsheet toward her. Duplicate invoices, coded transfers. Your own ledgers match these dates, I said. At that moment, a donor couple paused in the hallway. The woman, recognizing me from a scholarship luncheon, stepped inside. Why was her name erased from Amira's article? She asked. The CFO's mouth opened, closed, then trembled. Carter's hand slammed the table. This is inappropriate. The donors looked unimpressed. Optics cracked faster than glass. Lott tried to steady control by flipping to the January codicil. We'll proceed, he said. Identify the witnesses. I requested when he hesitated, flipping pages like shuffling guilt. We can reaffirm the terms today. No, I interrupted. We won't wash truth with new ink. I placed a sealed envelope on the table, the handwriting on it unmistakably Amira's. I didn't open it. The donors leaned forward, silent. We'll suspend our pledge until this is clarified, the woman said flatly. The CFO didn't stop her. The air itself seemed to lean away from Carter. The receptionist reappeared holding 2 printouts, breathless. Probate clerk emails, urgent. I read them aloud. Carter's executor status temporarily suspended. Hearing moved up to 48 hours. Lott reached for the papers, but I kept reading. Voice steady. All estate actions paused pending verification. Carter's color drained. You forum shopped this, he barked. I held up my chain of custody log. No, sir. I followed the rules you ignored. The donor couple recorded that moment quietly from the doorway. I closed my recorder's lid. The silence afterward felt sacred. Outside, a reporter caught the donors by the elevator. What happened in there? She asked. I smiled but said nothing. Carter hissed. You'll regret this. I turned. Meeting his reflection in the glass. Say that again. I told him. He didn't. My phone buzzed. A message from Talia. Vendor freeze confirmed. Another from Helen. Witness jurats tonight, 8:05 sharp. I walked 2 blocks to a cafe, bought coffee for the donors, and showed them Amira's scholarship plans. This is what she wanted, I said. The woman squeezed my hand. Then we'll fund the kids directly. At dusk, I sat in the same church where Amira taught children to read. I finally opened the letter she left me. Her voice spilled through the page. Keep it clean, Mama. No vanity galas. Just help the ones who can't afford the tests. I whispered. We're doing it your way. The evening light fell across the pews like a benediction. I texted the donors. Amira's words, short. True. My sister called. Worried. You sound different. I smiled. I sound ready. By nightfall, my quiet inbox lit again. State Attorney General, Charitable Trust Division. Inquiry notice to the Foundation and Carter Vance. Another alert followed. Bank verification on vendor accounts pending. I lined up tomorrow's exhibits, capped my pen, and told Amira's photo. They can keep their glass walls. I've got the paper trail. A final text arrived from an unknown number. You don't know who you're messing with. I took a screenshot, added it to my S15 file, and whispered, Yes, I do. The boardroom looked brighter than yesterday, sunlight pouring through those tall glass walls like judgment. The AG investigator took the chair beside me, his badge catching the light with each movement. Morning, I said quietly. He nodded, clipped, all business. Across from us. Carter wouldn't look my way. His fingers drummed against the folder he no longer owned. Grayson Lott straightened his tie twice before clearing his throat. I confirmed the recorder's red light. For the record, Matt, I said, this session is under preservation order. The junior associate announced, recording. Every document lay labeled, numbered, sealed. No one would erase anything today. The first pages of the will were red, steady as clockwork. Most of Amira's estate went into 2 charitable trusts, scholarship and arts access. Just like she told me years ago over sweet tea on our porch, there were no fancy cars, no gifts of jewelry, not even a line for Carter's name beyond procedural mentions. Executor, Lott said, pausing as if the word might bite him. The clause was conditional if conflicts existed, Executor duties transferred to the independent trustee. I wrote that down. My pen didn't tremble. The donor couple from yesterday sat behind the glass. The CFO stared straight ahead. Carter leaned back, trying to look unbothered. He still thought this meeting would salvage his standing. Then came the codicil. Lot's voice faltered halfway through. I designate my mother, Loretta Quince, as independent trustee and trust protector. The air left the room. Carter went pale, one hand gripping his chair's armrest like an anchor. The AG investigator raised a hand. Sir, please step back from the table. The codicil continued, granting authority to remove conflicted executors, approve vendor lists, and trigger independent audits. My title was not decorative, it was decisive. Then came the in terrorem clause. Any individual who interferes or manipulates forfeits all claim. Forfeits, Lot repeated, barely audible. The investigator marked the timestamp. I sat still, heartbeat steady. I requested that Amira's letter of wishes be unsealed. The junior associate broke the wax, and we all signed the evidence log. Her handwriting filled the page, neat, assertive. Mama, it read, guard this for me. No vanity galas, no kickbacks, protect the children who can't pay. The room went silent except for the hum of the air vent. She named vendors indirectly, calling for independent review. Pelican wasn't said, but everyone understood. Carter muttered. Lawfare, I said. Enter that word into the record. The AG nodded. His pen scratched quietly. The sound of justice being written in real time. Then the investigator produced a document none of them expected. A consent order. Mr. Vance's authority is suspended pending hearing, he said. Interim control transfers to Mrs. Quince. Lot sputtered. We request a continuance. The AG replied. Denied, I signed with my blue-black pen, the one Amira bought me when she got her first grant. Effective immediately, the investigator added. The CFO's phone buzzed. Vendor freeze confirmed, donors nodded, pledges reinstated. Carter opened his mouth. Lot whispered. Don't. He didn't listen. You can't just erase me, I said softly. Amira already did. Legally. He stopped talking. Reporters waited outside. I gave one statement. The trust will serve students. No vanity galas. That phrase spread faster than gossip. The donor couple announced a matching fund right there on the steps. Cameras flashed. I stayed still. Inside. I told the CFO, clear the test fee backlog today. She did. I gave Carter one last out. Submit devices for imaging or face contempt. He signed, pen shaking. Smart, Lot muttered under his breath. By late afternoon, I oversaw the audit schedule. Independent reviewers assigned, KYC refresh ordered, 2 successor trustees named, diversity by design, no repeat of the same power circles. Talia texted, vendor watch list filed, Helen confirmed witness jurats completed. The glass walls no longer felt like exposure. They felt like light coming through cracks that finally belonged there. That evening, I returned to the church office. The secretary left the door unlocked, candles faint against the window. I slid Amira's letter into an archival sleeve marked Mission. Then I signed 2 small grants, one for a girl's college application, another for a boy's clarinet rental. My sister called, voice bright. It's over, she asked. It's begun, I said, smiling. At home. I brewed tea, logged the chain of custody, placed my recorder beside the photo of Amira at her first recital. They said I shouldn't expect a penny, I whispered. Turns out, we didn't need one. We had the truth. The porch light glowed soft amber when I turned it off. That's when I heard the rustle at the door, an envelope sliding across the floorboards. I bent down, saw a notary's seal in bold handwriting. Affidavit from Pelican's accountant. I exhaled once, long and low. Always one more page, I said, and closed the door. As the porch light dimmed and that sealed affidavit lay heavy in my hands, one thought echoed louder than the cicadas outside. If Pelican's accountant was ready to talk, what else had been buried beneath Amira's name? The truth was out, but the game wasn't over yet. Stay tuned. What's inside that affidavit might change everything.